Yeah, I'll react to that, sure. This could be cool. Hey guys. Or original link to the video, top of the description from can't talk, Business Insider. Preemptive like. Yeah, I'm interested. And I want to know if they're comfortable. I have been to Amsterdam once, but I never tried any on or bought any, so.
It takes half a day and a solid
850-year-old tradition. Let's go.
block.
Hope
It
everyone's
takes half
doing
a day and a solid block of wood to carve just one pair of traditional Dutch clogs, or klompen. Farmers and factory workers across the Netherlands.
I already missed the first part. Just go.
It takes half a day and a solid block of wood to carve just one pair of traditional Dutch clogs, or klompen. Farmers and factory workers across the Netherlands have worn these wooden shoes for over 800 years.
Every village has a clockmaker, like a bakery or a butcher.
But today, there are only 10 left in the whole country.
Okay. Is that wood really soft, or is that thing just really sharp? Because the ease at which it's like it's scooping ice cream.
Across the Netherlands have worn these wooden shoes. Only 10 left in the whole country. In the early 1900s, machines largely replaced hand carvers. And then wearing wooden clogs fell out of style. Today, klompen are mostly sold as souvenirs.
Yeah.
That's left clog makers and painters juggling multiple businesses, or inventing an entirely new kind of art to stay afloat. Martin Dijkman recreated this Dutch masterpiece with more than 13,000 mini clogs. We visited the Netherlands to see how one of the oldest klompen businesses is still standing. A pair of clogs starts with a fresh block of wood from a willow or poplar tree. It doesn't weigh much when it dries.
When you have a hardwood, it's also heavy. So when it's finished, it should be you have a lot of kilos on your foot.
Martin makes sure to avoid any knots in the wood, like this new branch forming.
So it's not good. Get a hole in the shoe afterwards.
I never even realized what a knot in the wood was. That's just a new branch forming. I never realized that.
Forming.
So it's not good. Get a hole in the shoe afterwards.
It's so obvious.
He then chops out the rough shape of a shoe. Martin is a fourth-generation clog maker, and he still uses the axe his father gave him when he was 12. The blade's handle is curved to help protect his hand.
When it's straight, it will cut your fingers.
That's not
but he
good.
Still has to be careful. If he cuts too much, then he has to start all over again.
Has that ever happened to you before?
Yep, many times.
Does it just become firewood?
So you have to practice a lot. Earlier days there were schools. It took you 7 years to learn it.
Jeez.
Klompen schools don't exist anymore. So Martin learned everything from his father. The Dijkman family has been carving clogs in the town of Lutenberg for over 100 years. Martin took over the family business in 1997. Today, he lives behind his workshop, and he has clogs, well, everywhere.
You need 3-4 pairs in 1 year.
Martin shapes the shoe on a wooden bench his father built over 50 years ago.
So I'm curious. I love all the old tools he's using from his father passing down or whatnot. I'm wondering if they're going to get into whether this was more of just like a decorative thing that sometimes you wore. Like, I'm not talking about just now. I mean, whenever they were like really popular, you know, however many hundreds of years ago were these, like, was it like your standard pair of shoes you would wear every day? Because I can't imagine they're very good at going through, you know, non-solid, you know, dirt or mud or something, unless they're really well made. Okay, all right.
The long blade on top is called a palmus.
Sure, they'll get into
and it's also about a half-century old. He starts by carving the outside of the clog, peeling off slice after slice. The two pieces have to be even.
Oh, this one is too high. This one is a little bit, yeah, this is more pointed. Yeah, to start again. Yeah.
Martin can now begin digging out the inside of the shoe, starting with 2 holes. All these spoon drills he inherited are more than 80 years old. This one is called a lepelbohr and works like an ice cream scoop.
That's what it looks like.
He uses this larger lepelbohr to carve out the space between the 2 starter holes.
How sharp is that?
You can see it's very intensive.
Slowly, he works his way down to the toe box, removing rosettes of wood with each turn. He checks the length every step of the way with this old-school ruler. Martin says shoemakers used to measure clogs with their thumbs.
But Napoleon invented the centimeters. And a wooden shoe at that time, they have to go over 2 centimeters.
Today, he's working on a pair for a child.
The size must be 20 centimeters.
Did not know Napoleon did that. I've seen a lot of videos on Napoleon, and that was either never mentioned or I didn't. Jeez, I'm learning a lot in this video.
Meters. The size must be 20 centimeters.
Next up, he carves out the toe box and the arch. This step, he says, takes the longest.
When you have a little stone in your shoes, you feel that. So, yeah, you have to make it smooth.
Imagine making a pair for Shaq. You would need like a tree for each shoe.
Lastly, he forms the heel. It's about 3.5 centimeters tall. One final measurement, and he can begin smoothing the outside of the shoe.
So this is the nicest part.
Martin says 65% of the original wood piece is cut away. He burns the scraps to dry out his newly carved clogs. Each master clog maker etches in a design, sort of like a signature.
This is my grandfather's design. Yeah, I keep this alive.
It's hard to follow the exact history of wooden clogs
awesome.
because most rotted away or were used as firewood. The oldest wooden shoe found in the Netherlands dates back to the 13th century, and iterations were found across Europe. But their popularity in the Netherlands was the longest lasting. Wood was cheap and easy to find, and it protected workers' feet from sharp objects or from a stomping cow. Clogs were also water resistant, important for a shoe used to trudge across the Netherlands wet
God,
and
it
muddy
was used. It's just an everyday thing. That makes it so much cooler.
landscape. Resistant, important for a shoe used to
How did you just have to like really flex your toes up each time you took a step, especially in mud where it's going to be, want like suction stuck in there. And they're made well enough so that, they don't fall off. I'm assuming, or they just had some really muscular feet.
to trudge across the Netherlands' wet and muddy landscape. By the 16th century, everyone from farmers and fishermen to factory workers were wearing them. But come the early 20th century, leather became more affordable for the working class, and machines started replacing local clog makers. Clogs had a small resurgence during World War II when leather was rationed. But soon after, klompen got a reputation as a shoe of the poor and fell out of fashion. And as clog making dies, so too does this art form. One of the last clog painters in the country lives about 70 miles away in the picturesque fishing town of Hindelopen. Peter Botsma has been painting clogs for almost 4 decades.
I wasn't a person to study, so when I was 15, I knew already I have to work every day with my hands.
He starts with a base coat, either hand-painted or sprayed on.
It smells a little bit.
Between drying, applying a second coat of paint, and sanding, it takes Peter 2 days to complete just the base color.
It paints easier. That's also for the protection.
Then he brushes on local flowers, like daisies and tulips, and a bird.
And we call them the lucky bird, the garuda.
He adds shadows in gray or brown and white for highlights.
I'm painting now the typical hinderloper flowers. We call that Hielper schilderwerk. And it's from Scandinavia. It's very old.
I love watching people who are good at painting or even handwriting. My handwriting is terrible. It's awful. It's always been bad. And it's like, it's something that you do your entire life in school, or while you're in school, and after, obviously less and less so with computers. But I'm crap at painting or drawing, handwriting, and so whenever I see even a little
it's in the nature,
skill,
and in the
I'm
nature,
impressed.
nothing is perfect. The flowers and the trees. So when you do it too big, too small, that's not a problem.
Looks great.
Peter learned everything he knows from his father, who ditched fishing for painting in the 1970s.
My father was not good for fishermen, but he was always sick on sea.
In 2016, he and his two sisters took over the family business. Nowadays, Peter still makes the designs his dad taught him.
And I paint every day the same flower, this one, and again, and again, and again. And my father said, no, that's not good. Again. Wow, again,
Perfectionist.
for 2 years. It goes better, easier, like dancing.
Below his workstation, paint has built up for generations.
And when there is finished, or there is too much on the, then we do like this. Because my father painted on this table many years.
Wait, is that built? That's built up paint?
And when there is finished, or there is too much on the, then we do like this. Because my father painted on this table
So awesome.
many years.
It takes Peter about 2 hours to paint one pair of clogs that he then sells for 50 euros.
I cannot live for 25 euro in 1 hour for always, because I have 3 children, I have a wife, she needs a lot of money, my wife. So I have to think other things.
He says customers wouldn't buy his clogs if they were more expensive. To boost business, he sells small souvenir klompen for just a few euros. These blue ones are actually painted in China and shipped back to the Netherlands. He also paints custom orders like rocking horses and chairs. And he runs a gift shop, a skating museum, and even a restaurant.
So you have to try to do 5 things at once.
All around him are
It seems like something seems like it's just so difficult about that way of making money, and in that, like, it doesn't, like, you might put so much effort in and all of this detail and you love doing it, but if it's not worth it, for people to buy it for how much, you know, they might buy something else with the equal or less amount of work put into it. Well, you can't sell it for that much. And I get it makes sense. It's, you know, the demand is going to decide how much you can sell it for. There's just something sad about old businesses that built up so much, old trades that built up so much knowledge of how you're making and crafting these things, and it's necessary, you know, stuff goes out of need and out of style, and so I get it, but it's still sad just knowing. You got to think about all the other things that went out of style, or something else came out that was more useful, or people just don't see it as worth for, you know, for the amount of money that you think it should cost. I think I got my point across there.
Reminders of the painters that came before him, a living museum.
This is one of the painting palettes of my father.
Peter estimates fewer than 10 professional Hindelopen-style painters are left in the country.
The quality of the hand painting style, I think it's gone.
Just like Peter, Martin can't make a living just from his handmade wooden clogs. He says hardly anyone wears them anymore.
In the countryside where I live, in Luttenberg, People use it as to let the dog out in the evening, do something in the garden.
So he had to find a way to keep his family's heritage alive. In 2007, he started a new kind of mosaic, replications of famous masterpieces like Vermeer's Milkmaid from thousands of tiny clogs. His Night Watch by Rembrandt took 30,000 shoes and 3 years to complete.
My father said as a joke, maybe we can make the Night Watch from Rembrandt. So I said to him, yeah, it's too difficult. But a week later I was thinking, yeah, why not?
He started with a pixelated version of the piece.
Smart.
And then
Put one on
hand-painted each mini
square.
shoe, 1 or 2 different colors, before gluing it into
Each
place.
pixel.
Oil paint. You have to paint 2-3 times for the best results. So I had some help from volunteers who are living here in the area.
For tourists in the Netherlands, wooden clogs make great souvenirs, as much a symbol of the country as tulips, windmills, and cheese.
And the thing is, I feel like most people who would get them as souvenirs, maybe not all, but most, wouldn't really care about the difference between a factory-made one and a handmade one. So you need some sort of like marketing, like some celebrity wear it or something, but you need enough money for that. I mean, it doesn't sound great, but it works. So, but yeah, and yeah, I got my point
As much a
across.
symbol of
It's
the
sad
country
that
as tulips, windmills, and
you can't
cheese.
price your
Martin charges over
product correctly.
$260 for
sorry for how much you put into it.
windmills and cheese. Martin charges over $260 for a handmade pair. At that price point, he sells only 5 a year. Most of what's on sale in his shop are machine-made ones that go for around $30.
You can see this one is made by hand. And this is polished, sandpapered by machine. Yeah,
Which do you prefer?
of course.
Why?
Handmade it, huh? Yeah, you can see the art in it. The furniture maker make 3 pairs in 1 day. And now we have factories. The quickest one can make 30 pairs in 1 hour.
To keep the business going, he also hosts tour groups with his wife Marijke and holds demonstrations of hand-carving clogs. With their many hustles, both Peter and Martin have managed to keep their crafts alive. But most clog artisans like them are close to retirement, so the future of their art forms is uncertain.
My son is not to take over, so I think I am the last wooden show maker from my family. That is what it is.
Peter could be looking at the same fate. None of his children plan to take on the family business.
I'm now 50 years, 52, and I think maybe we finished by 65, and then it's over. That's the way it goes.
Sport shoe, the Nike Air, or high heels, and this one, the Armani. Yeah, I think this one is a nice one.
It's an interesting video, first of all. I enjoyed that. And most surprisingly, I'm glad it was answered that people back in the day actually did use them for everyday outside wear. And then I know later it said that they had a stigma for just, being for the poor. But with stuff like this, it seems like there's no middle ground in the business. It's either you create them en masse and cheaply for the large market of your average tourist coming in and wanting a pair, or you become super high end where you're that niche thing in the market, making good handmade stuff but selling it for a lot for the people that are looking for that and will pay for it. And just anything in between. I mean, if you're trying to sell it even close to ones that are factory made, then it doesn't look good. But I always hate this. I say the same thing with sort of like any lost trade. Like I would love to see shipbuilding before main, like giant iron, steel, metal holds ships and propellers, and all of the knowledge that must have been lost from knowing how to put together a wooden ship that must have taken so much more craftsmanship on the individual level. that a lot of stuff, and this goes with, you can continue on and on and on with professions that fall out of style or out of use, or there's a better alternative out there that people are willing to pay for. Very interesting. Love that video. Hope you guys are all doing well. Would appreciate any comments down below. Would love for a few likes and subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you next video. Bye, guys.